Hello. Can anyone hear me?
Hi, Session. I can hear you.
Oh, okay, great.
I don't know if we're connected to City Hall yet, though I'm at home.
Oh,
That's
you're
fine.
you're on Zoom too?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hi, everybody. It is 6:42 on Thursday, 11/27. So we'll call tonight's meeting to a start. Present, we have 5 of our members. So the first thing we need to do is our roll call. We have Sudeshna has dialed in online. Hi, Sudeshna. I'll assume she can.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi.
Awesome.
And so
Hi.
people absent today are Jennifer, Greg, and Rachel. Is that right? Is there anybody else? Okay. So did they all write in? Is this all approved? Okay. So then we just need to vote. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve their absence?
I move to approve their absence.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anne has made the motion. Shawnee seconded. Any abstentions, say aye. All right, so we'll move forward with an approval. Okay, we have, any noes? If it's, okay, so we can vote. Does anybody want to say yes, they approve? Say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, great. So it's approved. All right, next is the approval of tonight's agenda. Sudeshna, since you're not here, do you have it online that you can see?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, perfect. So could somebody make a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move to approve tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Barbara. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, thanks, Anne. We have a second. Anybody want to vote yes that we approve tonight's agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any noes? Any abstentions? It's unanimous. Okay, we're going to look at October's minutes. Sudeshna, do you have visibility to October's minutes?
I do, and I had a question about it.
Okay, go ahead.
And it might just be my usual brain fog, but I think we also approved Greg's sculpture idea. And we said we would budget for it this year, and I don't see it.
Could that have been in September?
Oh, great. That's my brain fog then. No problem.
Okay, perfect. So we're moving right along. Look at us. Okay, so does anybody have any, can we get somebody to make a motion to approve the October agenda? Okay, and was that Ashley? Was that you? Ashley says she makes a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I second.
Barbara seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And Sudesh,
Aye.
you can just do a thumbs up if it's easier, so you don't
Yeah.
need to keep doing that to yourself. Okay, any noes? Any abstentions? Going once, twice. Okay, approved. Yay. All right. We are now public comment. Written public comment may be submitted by email to Emily Scott at escott@sammamish.us. Verbal comment during the meeting, the operator will ask attendees if they would like to provide comment. When this occurs, if you are attending virtually, please raise your hand using the Zoom function or press *9 on your phone. And the time limit is 3 minutes per person or 5 minutes if you're representing a recognized community and organization. Okay, do we have anybody in the waiting room or any written comment?
No, we do not.
Okay, great. So old business, we would like to welcome Jasmine Brown. Hi, Jasmine. We are so glad you're here. Can you hear us? We can hear you. We can't hear you, but we can see that you are not muted.
Hello.
Yay. Hi.
There we are. Okay. Hello. Nice to see everyone this evening. Thank you for inviting me, Emily, to present my modified design proposal for the DEI sculpture. Emily, I forwarded you the link to the presentation. I also have it here. I don't know what's easier, if it's easier for me to click through it or if it's easier for you to do it from.
Whichever you'd prefer. So I have it pulled up, but if it's easier for you to talk through it while you click, we can do it that way too.
Okay. I'll try to do it on my end and see if that will cooperate. Let's see. Share screen. Okay, let's see if it'll let me switch to slideshow here. All right, can you all still see?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, great. All right, so the original DEI sculptural proposal that I made was several silhouettes of children playing in the park. But a new location was chosen in Sammamish Commons, the reflecting pool site. This space is different, much different than an open park setting. So I made some adjustments to my design. The art space, once the reflecting pool has been filled in and leveled off, will be approximately 5 feet by 66 feet long. So I have the idea of doing a screen concept, cut metal screen concept, and these are just some ideas of different cutout and patterns and designs. And I began looking at aerial maps of Sammamish. I've considered Lake Sammamish aerial map as a basis for the screen. And then some of the roadways surrounded by trees, focusing on city streets. And this is another view from the center of the circle area. This is what a screen and sitting on top of where the reflecting pool is now, what it would look like. But I kind of went back to the park setting idea, and I thought about all the beautiful trees in the area, and I think that the landscape screen should be more of like a forested park setting. And I was thinking a multi-layered cut metal installation would be a good use of this space and would invite visitors to walk around it and see it from different perspectives. So the cut metal forest screen would be in the background, and youth silhouettes would sit in front on both sides. So you would have like a multi-layer design. I found a example on Evergreen's campus of what a multi-layer cut metal screen design looks like. This is a similar in technique sculpture called The Story House by Barbara Earl Thomas on Evergreen's campus. So if my mock-ups don't gel with you and you don't really understand what it's supposed to look like, it would be similar to that, but smaller. This is a larger structure. But you can see the buildings behind it. You can see through it. You can walk around it. You can sit in front of it. And it's using color to differentiate the two layers in this particular piece. All right. Thank you. Any questions? I'll stop sharing.
I have a question. Are the silhouettes of the children going to be in different colors, or what's your thinking on that?
I initially thought that if they were spread out in the park, that they would be different colors. But I'm wondering if that might not be too busy in the common setting, maybe picking a color palette of just 2 or 3 colors would be enough in that setting. So I'm trying to pick a concept that won't fight the rest of what's going on in the commons. But it would stand out but blend in at the same time.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Thanks.
Are the silhouettes of the children that you showed at the beginning the ones that will be around the forest scene?
Those are some of the ones that I'm kind of working with their drafts right now. So I'm trying to see if I can still incorporate the original idea of the silhouettes into this piece in this very different structure, because originally my idea was, like I said, having the silhouette spread out throughout a park, and it was all of kids playing and running and jumping and having fun in the park.
Yeah.
Now this is a different setting. So by bringing in the cut middle screen behind it, it's like you're almost sitting them in a park setting within the paved commons.
Totally. I
So-
really like it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. I remember looking back at something you had done, I think, in front of the Spokane Library. Is that right?
Yes.
With the
Yes.
children sitting and reading.
Yes.
Is that something that could sort of, I mean, I'm just trying to think if there's trees, are you looking to have all the children in motion? Or is that intentional to have like the structure of the trees and then the children in motion? Or is there, I don't know, is there something else there, or what is?
Well, with the Spokane Library sculpture, all the silhouettes were figures reading.
Yeah.
And there was discussion about what do people do now at libraries? Do people sit and read books? Or are they on the computer? Or were they listening to music on their headphones or whatever? So there was a discussion about that, but I landed on the visual representation of people reading books. And for this piece, I picked out, a kid like participating in roller derby or playing a musical instrument or holding a ball, implying that they're going to play ball somewhere. So I'm, kind of still like, that's still like gelling for me, what each individual figure will be doing. But I wanted to kind of get approval on the concept itself or not, or if I have to go back to the drawing board, that's fine. But I just want to know if I'm headed in the right direction.
Okay, so I think what we should probably do at this point is do a quick vote so we can give you that immediate feedback. So I'm looking for somebody to make a motion to approve this impact of the forest with children, with the cut metal, with a scene in the center, and then children on either side.
I have one more question.
Oh, sorry.
A while ago, we were asked as a commission to give suggestions as to what we wanted, what we were interested in the figures being. Has a decision been made about them only being children?
I wasn't aware that was the question that was out there. What was the result of that conversation?
I have no idea what the result was.
Well, that was the original mock-up, but I think the idea here is that we're open now. So we have a little more, what she's looking for is some guidance, and then if we wanted, if she's got the basics, then we can go into, we could make some people, I mean, then we could
Yeah, I just know
have more
that we
discussions.
were asked to give some input that was supposed to be given to Jasmine, and I don't know whatever happened to that input. So I was just curious if there was a decision made, if we were just going to be exclusively with children, or we're going to be more inclusive with other people.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be children.
Okay, I'm just, that's just a point of interest, a point of curiosity.
Well, that's good to know, because I think my initial proposal was all children, but it was, again, in a park around a place area. So that's why I picked that particular demographic. But it could certainly be, silhouettes of folks of all ages. So I could work with that if that was part of what was asked of me.
So what I would suggest is that we vote that this is the concept, and then we can open up discussion a little bit more to the next, some of the finer details. Does that ring okay with everybody? Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion that we're moving ahead with this concept?
I'll make a motion that we move ahead with this concept.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Great. Jasmine, you've hit it on the nose, what we'd like. So
Great.
could we, it's fabulous. I think the location is going to work really well for this kind of, with the motion of the trees I'm truly in favor of the trees. I would love to talk a little bit more about the kids or adults that could be around it. Because I feel like what we need to do now is give you strong feet, like we need to move forward. So Emily and Janie can, or whomever can go to city council and get the final stamp on this tremendously long process that you've been through with us. And so we can see this actually come to light before we all have our own grandchildren. I don't know, because you've really, you've hung in there with us, and we want you to know that we're really grateful. So I think our job right now tonight is to vote, and as we have, and now have a little bit of discussion, right? So we can get to the next step faster with no delays. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Barbara, did you want to talk about people of all ages, or?
Yeah, because we were talking about inclusivity. So we have so many people who live in this community of all ages, of religions, of ethnicities. I mean, so there's so many of us. And yes, there are children there too, but my feeling is that I would really like to see the piece incorporate everyone. I mean, not 100 people, but but just to be representative. The people are represented.
My concern is that it would mean having more figurines.
Not necessarily. No.
I'm sorry, you cut out.
I couldn't hear you.
My concern is that the design might just get too busy if we add, but if we can work with within what the pieces are, then it should be nice. Yeah.
So if we, Jasmine, let me ask you a couple of follow-up questions. With the length of 66 feet, I think that's what you said, and it's 5 feet wide. So if we had figures, if we had people on either side, do you think what looks best is a staggered approach? So they wouldn't be back to back, but rather staggered on either side?
I think that would be the best approach, and that might limit the number of figures that we have. I was thinking about 5, maybe 6 figures.
Okay.
And trying to stay within budget.
Okay.
Well.
Right. So if we stuck with 5 or 6, Sudeshna, did you have a question?
Yes. So I was wondering if we could play with the screen a little bit, and see if we can make it more like different heights of the trees. I don't know, that might look too busy, but that's just a thought. And the other question that I had that was similar to Barbara's was, there are some things that we might not be able to show in one color. Like, how do you show LGBTQI plus inclusivity in a 2-color sculpture? There might be ways, but that's just something to think about when we are designing all these, because I think that's super important for our city. And I also want to echo what Barbara was saying about, being just aware of all ages, and somehow trying to see if we can fit that into the sculpture as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Sudeshna. So if we worked with 5, could we use those? We want to be respectful too of how long this has taken of your time and how limited our budget is for this project. Hang on one second. Okay, sorry, I was just trying to get you more money and it didn't work. So, okay, so And it's not Emily's fault, it's procedure, so I don't want you to think anything else. Okay, so if we worked with 5 instead of trying to reduce, I don't know, cost more money, which takes more, whatever. Okay, is there a way that we could do 5 and represent a wider variety? Because I think we could do LGBTQ plus by, it could be on a shirt or something. You could have something like the progress flag or something, there's ways to do it that don't involve color. I don't know, I'll stop talking, but is there?
I would just like to say,
I think one of the things that would be extremely helpful is I go to my fabricators and say, hey, give me a quote on this. This is what we're dealing with. And after I talk to my structural engineer too about connection, methods and as well, and get a solid quote from my fabricator, that'll let me know if we're way over budget. And if there is some wiggle room. I'm proposing what I think can be done within the budget right now, and extra colors cost extra money.
Right.
So.
And when you looked at the piece at Evergreen, that piece had a frame around it?
Yeah, that piece has a frame. So
right.
That's another thing that we'll have to talk about. And I was going to discuss with my structural engineer, because in case somebody climbs on it, we don't want them to injure themselves on it. Well, they might injure themselves if they climb on it regardless, but trying to do what we can to mitigate any safety issues.
Right. We can't mitigate stupidity, but we can mitigate safety. So, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, if you could go back, and so what would be the next step, Emily? Would she go back and then we invite her to come back and speak? Would you be able to get an idea of your costs from your fabricator by January?
Yeah, I should be able to get a quote from them by January.
Could we invite you back to come back in January? Okay, Emily says yes, if you could make time for us. It would be the 4th Thursday of January.
I'm looking at my calendar on the wall.
Monday.
Oh, Monday. Sorry, not Thursday. That's another meeting. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't have a problem coming back, or just submitting something for you all to respond to.
Sure. And we could also
have to go in front of council too, so I don't know how that lines up with council meetings, or.
Well, we'll put that on Emily and Jeannie to figure out, because they probably had a placeholder, assuming we approved tonight anyway, and we'll just roll it forward. Okay, it looks like Emily can make that work for us. So yeah, if you could work that out with Emily, that you either attend the 4th Monday in January, or we could also, if we need to take action, which we probably we'll probably need to vote, that we can also have some sort of an emergency, quote unquote, emergency meeting where we could approve. The one thing I was thinking, I don't know if you even care, but because we are so close to a skateboard park, a basketball park, the library, and a playground, that those are all would be interesting things to incorporate that those people are doing. Mm-hmm. And I do know that one of the things that came back that Barbara was talking about, when we first, I don't know, one of the times we went to City Council, they talked about inclusivity. And I think one of the things that they may want to see is physical disability. So if wheelchair or is something like that is a possibility, we'd probably like to see that included, or possibly LGBTQ plus somehow incorporated. But
and I'd like to put a vote in for those of us who are seniors in this community who have been forgotten.
Right. Well, me too. I'm on the verge. So could you put in some wrinkles for us to represent us?
And you don't have to give us gray hair.
No, we could just have a couple of laugh lines, that's all. Comfortable shoes, that kind of thing.
But not stupid looking.
No, we don't want to look dumb.
No stupid comfortable looking
Orthopedics, okay.
shoes.
All right, Jasmine, thank you so much. Does anybody have any final thoughts? Or Sudeshna doesn't have her hand up at this moment, but we're just so grateful for you for sticking with us for so long, and we're really excited to see it move forward, and we want to thank you thank you so much. Go have a nice evening. Thank you.
You too. All right. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
What would you have done? Oh, okay. I'm like, all right, all right, Sudeshna, the KCLS partnership event that's coming on December 3rd, 2 to 3 p.m. at the library. Would you like to speak to this?
I don't have any additional information. Emily has been working with Elena from the library to sign the contract with the author and such. Emily, I'm going to send you another jot form with the next social media update. I think we should do it now, and then one just before the event. So I'll work on that. But besides that, nothing else to update on.
Perfect.
Okay, so if everybody could try to make it, it would be nice to have some attendance by our commissioners. And have the city council members been invited? Does anybody know? Okay. All right, would somebody like to invite the city council members?
I can do it.
All right, lovely. Thank you, Sudeshna.
Thank
All
you.
right. Next, old business. Point number 4 on the agenda is the artist reception and exhibit opening that's on December 8th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. in City Hall. Emily, would you like to talk to this?
Yeah, just a reminder that this is coming up. This exhibit is all Sammamish artists. So that's who you will see displayed on the walls. I just put it in here as a reminder since it's right around the corner.
And do you know, have city council members been invited?
Believe so, and the social media post is scheduled for tomorrow, and it also got placed in the city newsletter, the winter newsletter.
Great.
So you should start seeing, if you open that, there's a section in there for it.
So I will say on the record that I have now been to 2 of the exhibits that Rachel has kicked off at the events. And I think there's only been 2 that Rachel has done, and I have yet to see a city council member attend. So I would like to be on the record for saying that that's disappointing. And I would like to see a city council member come in support of the Art Commission and the work that Rachel is doing to make sure that our community is represented in City Hall. Staff updates. I'm sorry, I do have my phone out because I'm making sure that these 2 dates are in my calendar, and I think that's what Ashley just did it, and Shalini's doing. Anne is already together because she's the only one not doing it. Yeah, she's making us all look bad. Okay, art strategic plan. Hello, Jamie.
Hi, good evening. If my dog in the background is making too much noise, please let me know. But also, Emily, I think I need to be promoted to a panelist so I can share my screen.
Yeah, and we want to see your dog.
Okay, he's blurred out, but if he makes an appearance.
That's not good enough.
Let's see. There he is.
Oh. What's his name?
For all posterity, his name is Judah.
Hi, Judah. Judah.
Got a new toy today?
Judah.
You want a treat?
Where's your ball? Nothing. Oh, he licked his lips.
Okay. He's very confused. All right. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to come back to you tonight. We last spoke, I believe it was the last meeting in October. with the strategic art plan RFQ, request for qualifications, which we discussed, and I incorporated some feedback. I didn't get any additional feedback via email after the meeting. So this is just what came up during our initial discussion. And I'm hoping tonight we can have a motion to approve and therefore get it on a schedule to release, or it'll have to go to council and then be released. So as a reminder, there are 3 steps. It is 1, existing conditions. So like, what is the current status of the city regarding staff support, commissioner role, and also inventory of existing city art programs, but then also looking at external art providers, potentially like non-city events that also offer art and cultural experiences. Then 2 is visioning and engagement. So doing a community survey to see what community demand is for art, comparing that to step 1, where we established current art level. So it'll be like that service gap analysis, current level versus demand. And then also creating objectives and goals. So for the department, this will be part of the main plan. What goals and objectives can we pursue to go about eliminating that service gap analysis? Creating a framework and procedures for art installations and also signage guidelines. And then step 3 is plan development, which really goes into how the process of the commission and staff will look like going forward. So clear roles and expectations for commissioners, also recommendations for arts events and programs. So we have those goals of, say, 50 additional art pieces by X year in the city. What are some programming ideas that we can use to achieve those? So that's what's here. And then hand in hand with that, identify potential locations, detailed grant funding strategy. So then again, going about how do we achieve those goals from a funding standpoint, budget recommendations. So beyond going out and getting money, what can we expect from the city? What do we need? And then also recommendations for staffing level to adequately support the efforts of the Arts Commission. So this is the current draft. You'll see in red, these are the edits that have been made since you all last looked at it. And I will stop talking and allow you guys to ask questions or open it up for discussion.
So Janie, I just want to start by saying that this looks really good. I was really impressed with it when everything all kind of came together. So thank you for your work on this and sticking with us on it. So I really don't have much to add at this point.
Can you scroll down so we can see what the timeline is?
Yeah, so this is a timeline from the first iteration. It needs to be updated. If we recall, going to council will be likely if this group approves tonight, we can go to council in early January. They will approve it, and then we'll be able to release it for submissions right away. Give it about a 4 to 6 week window for people to bring in their submissions. And then you all, as the Arts Commission, will review submissions, make our recommendation for council for who we should hire. Council will approve it. And then the plan itself will take 6 to 9 months to implement, depending on the timeline that the consultant gives us. So we're looking at likely end of 2024 when this whole project will be completed.
I'm happy with it.
I do have a question about it. Will they be, so we go through the process, we find the consultant that we want to work with, and then they start working, I think, I don't know, February-ish. And throughout the course of the year, will they be delivering aspects of this throughout the year so we can start to see it come together, or do they just batch everything up and just hand it off in one big piece?
Yeah, there will be a touch-in meeting. So if you wanted to form a subcommittee for this Arts Commission, which I believe there already is one, so the subcommittee can meet with staff at those likely monthly touch-in meetings where the the subcommittee can then report back to the full group. There will also, so these elements in task 2, goals, framework, signage guidelines, we can expect those to come in as they're created for drafts for review and feedback if the commission believes that there should be changes or additions. And then the final plan development, we should get a draft of the final plan and then one round of edits likely, and then the full plan. So there'll be a couple of times. It won't just be, we don't hear anything until the very end of the project, and then you get what you get,
So does it need to say that in this portion of it, or does that come in the next phase? I know that there's kind of a rollout. Okay.
Yeah, so this is just the overall framework. We expect firms to give us their proposals, and then once we select a firm, there will be that negotiation of how many times do we expect to have meetings, and that'll affect how much they charge us, because they do it by the hour, obviously. So that'll come later.
Can you scroll up to the schedule again?
Yeah.
So could there be something in there that says somewhere between, I mean, I realize these dates are all going to be rolled forward, but somewhere put in there like that there will be some check-ins and that's expected in the proposal that they give us, I mean, in the RFP that they give us? Because we're pretty firm about when we want to see it started and when we see the adoption, but I don't see anything that says that they actually will consult with us. Or maybe that's just always understood. I've never done anything like this.
So this highlighted portion, you'll see it just like starts and then ends, but within that there will be, this schedule is really just for contracting, so they can expect to know when they will hear from us by a certain date. When we get a consultant that we choose in their scope of work and contract, there will be a fully fleshed out timeline detailing, every month along the way. And I did in my first draft have a number of touch points included, and I was told by our director that is kind of out of scope for this level of RFQ. So this is only my third one. So yeah, no, that will come later.
Okay, great. And it actually helps that it was what occurred to you too. It shows that we're on track with that, but it's obviously my inexperience specifically that needs to be adjusted.
Yeah, that's why our this isn't, I didn't just make this up. Emily has also looked at it, and Anjali. So it's a combination of our staff efforts, which is good.
Well, and anybody have any other questions at this point? Shani has her finger near the hot button.
Just, I don't know, but we're open to an individual versus a group as well, as a consultant.
Yeah, as a consulting firm or a consulting individual, correct. It's anyone is welcome to submit their qualifications. They will have to have the appropriate levels of insurance for our contracting guidelines as a city. But if they're an individual person who has a small business, they should have all that set up.
Any further questions? Sudeshna, you? All right. I would like to take the next step here and see, would anybody like to make a motion to move forward?
I make a motion to move forward with this as it stands.
Great. Thank you. And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Ashley seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any abstentions? Any noes? Janie, thank you so much. You have a unanimous approval from our commission, and we are very excited to see this move forward. Thank you for all your work on this. And thank you, Anne and Ashley, because I think both of you have been part of it, and we're grateful that it's of the work that you've put in. Oh, and Sadeshna, you too, Sadeshna. Thank you. All right.
Thanks. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
I'm not a panelist, so I don't have any emojis.
Oh. You could change your name. Keep changing your name. It looks like you sort of have a sad face on your your screen. Okay. Staff updates number 6.
All right, the double-sided wall, it is in fabrication. So it is being built. This was the design concept. There's gonna be 3 of these panels. So we can either bring out 1, we can bring out all 3. They're mobile. So I got the bill, it's officially happening, it's in fabrication, and then we'll have it. So think of ways that the commission would like to utilize it next year, places we can put it and when you'd like to use it, but that's exciting.
What's the surface on it again? I've forgotten in all of the conversations.
It is, I'm gonna forget, it's a type of metal. It's not metallic, because I thought it'd be fun to do magnets, but is what we're doing is it's being built to where we can attach different faces. So we can attach a chalkboard face.
Yeah, we could paint it with the metallic paint, right?
We could, yeah, or we could just have it's gonna have kind of like a pegs that you can like put these faces onto. So think of it as like a frame, and then we're gonna attach. So if someone wants to paint a mural away from here, and then we attach it to the wall, we can do that. We can store the extra faces somewhere so that the Before I Die wall can be written on. We can store it for a season or something and put up a mural instead. So yeah, it can be indoor, outdoor, yes.
So can we, since we have all the measurements, we also include some and use some of our.
Shani, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, yeah, microphone.
So I was saying that since we have all the measurements here, can we make those some of those faces like you're saying, say a magnetic board? We already buy that and have it ready, and include that from this year's budget into those things.
Yeah, we can. So the ones that are included is the chalkboard, chalkboard.
Yeah.
And a smooth wood surface. That's going to be one of them for painting murals on. But we could look into like a magnetic, aluminum, I don't know what surface it would be, but we could look into doing that.
Yeah, a magnetic, and potentially, I think another choice would be a whiteboard.
Oh,
And a and a cork board.
Corkboard.
Yeah.
Corkboard, yeah.
But
Ooh, okay.
Ashley.
Sorry.
Good job, Sudeshna, reminding us.
I asked for plexiglass because I have an idea of asking.
can you move the microphone closer? Yeah, because I can't.
Megan.
Yeah. Well, you're all happy when she says it. Okay.
She can't see me. And having somebody who writes poems.
Oh.
A poet.
We're on it tonight. We've got this.
Write a poem, and then hopefully it would like reflect down onto the ground when the sun shines through it. So like you could see it as you walk.
Okay. Yes, so I have corkboard, plexiglass, a magnetic something, and whiteboards.
Because a whiteboard could be super temporary.
Yep.
Right, within one, it could be pulled out during farmers markets, and the kids could write on it.
Yeah.
So could those costs all be potentially, could the fabricator potentially add in those 4 pieces?
We'll probably purchase this a little separately. The fabricator is like a steel worker and is doing the welding and powder coating and those types of things. But these, we should be able to buy large supplies cut to size that we can put on there. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
I'll do it tomorrow.
any chance that could be, what was the last thing you said? Tomorrow?
I'll look into it tomorrow.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
No.
So we can spend. My mic's off.
flashed one thing, and it does have a provision to have some kind of a light at the top, right? Initially, we had talked about it, but
There's no electricity wired onto it, but what we talked about was having battery powered like clip-on
Yeah,
lights.
yeah.
But yeah, there's no wiring actually in the walls.
And we budgeted for the. I'm just trying to see if we have everything that we can.
Lights?
Yeah, the lights. If we can already buy those, even the bottom floodlight, not spotlight kind of thing from that goes at the bottom and spotlights on, battery operated. We can at least buy those kind of things from the
Yeah.
budget.
And does it already have wheels on it?
Yes.
Really good
And then
ones?
they fold
With
up so
locks?
that it doesn't, yeah, they like fold up and then we had to change the design so that the feet length were long enough, but then they didn't want to be a trip hazard. So
Right.
the weight, because it is a pretty heavy, and we didn't want it to turn into a wind sail. There was a lot of back and forth, but
What about 4 of them? I'm kidding. I'm good. Don't worry about it.
I wish. I think storage is a little bit of a logistical hurdle.
Greg mentioned that they could possibly come apart.
Yeah, so the 3 sections, so Greg did do a ton of work on this and all the design, and he came in and met with folks here, and then he's been very helpful. They are 3 separate sections. So they'll sit flush when we push them together. I mean, you'll be able to feel the crease, or you can just pull out one section at a time, and I believe the dimensions were 4 feet or 6 feet wide. So, yeah, so there are 3 sections.
Yeah, that sounds
Yes,
right to me.
that sounds right.
Great. Well, that's a fabulous update. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Greg, in your
I
absence.
would like to make a motion that we approve money for additional supplies for the wall.
Do we need to?
So the wall did come out just barely over the $6,000 that was budgeted for it. So it would be helpful, sure, if we could spend some of the supply budget. And at this stage, I think you need to put it down.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion to add like $3,000 to the budget to be able to cover those additional supplies? It's $8,000, six going once, $6,000 going. I'm trying.
Sure. I will make a motion
Okay.
that we approve
$6,000
$6,000 for additional supplies for the.
to the wall. Anybody want to? And this is the good wall. This is an art wall for our listeners.
And I'll second it.
Okay, and we second a good art wall, additional $6,000 supplies. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Emily, build away.
Okay. Go.
Who seconded that motion?
Barbara. Okay, so the next staff update, number 7, no meeting in December. Next meeting is January 22nd. Okay, where we might have Jasmine, but we may not. Okay, new business. Does anybody have anything for new business?
Do we want to talk about potentially some sort of retreat at the beginning of next year where we can iron through our budget and kick some things off?
I think it would need to be in February, right? Because January is when they would be the city council would be, is the city council then?
Yes, so
Choosing
we
new
do
members?
have 3 seats expiring on the commission. Their last meeting will be that January 22nd meeting. So potentially there could be new faces in February. Current commissioners could reapply and be reappointed. But I do think it would be worthwhile to wait at least until that February date to hold some sort of retreat type
So,
practice.
and you and I can actually talk about those
Okay.
ideas.
Cool.
Because I keep missing Anne. So who's expiring? Shawnee?
I know mine is.
And then we have Jennifer's leaving.
Me, I'm expiring too.
But you can reapply. Everyone can
I'm
reapply.
applying.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
didn't
Shawnee,
wanna
are you
For
reapplying?
you.
Okay.
And Greg, and then Jennifer's seat will also be open. Yeah, because Greg filled a commissioner that left before this.
So is Greg reapplying?
I don't know these.
Okay,
names.
and then who else? That's it. That's the 3, right?
Correct.
No, that's 4.
Well, that's the 3 that are expiring.
And then we
Seat
have-
will be open. Yeah, so all 4 positions are currently open for application. Applications need to put in, I think it's January 5th. So just do it sooner rather than later. And then anyone who's listening,
There's nobody listening.
feel free to apply if
Rich
you're
in the-
interested.
Rich, do you want to? No, he doesn't want to apply. I just checked. He's like, these meetings are not what I want to do with my free time. Annalise, do you want to apply? No, okay. Conflict of interest. Yeah, conflict. Yeah,
She's
I think
already
we're. So, what's being done? Can you give us an update? Since we have these 4 positions, what kind of advertising is being done? Do you know?
What's being done? So they're advertised. Anyone can apply. Is that what you're? So yeah, applications come in as soon as they close. The city council is actually the only ones to review it. We as staff don't see who applies. We're not part of that process. And city council will appoint those positions. So obviously current commissioners are very encouraged to reapply. We would love to keep our current commissioners. But they do, they'll look at all applicants. Sometimes some commission, so there's a lot of commission seats open. There's Parks Commission, the Human Services. So sometimes people will put their first and second choice and it can get interesting, but that's the process.
And it's the same process where you have to speak for a little bit in front of the commissioners and then, like the council.
Yep, same process as last time.
What's the date that the new commissioner potentials speak? What date? Is that the January? Yeah, which city?
So it says that the city council applications are must apply by 5 p.m. on Friday, January 5th. And then the appointment process is in the city council meeting on January 9th. We'll review applications, conduct interviews, and vote for the finalists to be appointed to the Arts Commission. And then it says, hang on. It looks like, if I'm understanding this correctly, it would be you'd be at the January meeting, depending on the expiring. So if you were elected into position 5, you would be at the last January meeting, not last, but at our January meeting, because you would be taking Jennifer's spot. But if you were position 7, 8, or 9, then you would be joining us in February, because that January is when the positions would, your position, Sudeshna's and Greg's, would expire. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that means we will not be attending the January.
You do attend the January because your position goes through the end of January, if I'm understanding that correctly. And so, but the new commissioners would start, so then if you were reelected, your first meeting of your next session would be February, but position 5, because it's replacing an open seat, would attend the last meeting in January, which January 22nd or whatever we were saying when we were talking to Jasmine. No, I don't know what day. January 22nd. Does that make sense?
They could. I could see the clerk's office also just doing all the onboarding together. It might be kind of goofy to have one person start and then, unless it's all returning commissioners. So you're on the right.
Okay, so if the current members all got reelected, so Greg, Sudeshna, and Shawnee all got reelected, and we only had one new member, they would be potentially joining us in January.
Yes.
Which would make the January retreat make sense, but it sounds like that's just too many eggs in one basket.
Won't know that
so it should be February to make it to
worth your time.
Yeah. Okay. Are we good with that? Okay. So, Anne, you and I will talk offline. Okay. Any other new business? I have one thing, but I'll wait until anybody else. Okay. Sudeshna, no. Shawnee, no. Anne, no. Barbara, no. Okay. So mine is regarding the new grants process. So if our grants process, the new grants starts in January, which we all voted on doing that, to be able to keep our grants dollars with within one fiscal year instead of doing that carryover. And that was Emily's suggestion, and we all voted unanimously. I think we all agree it makes sense. Do we need to know how much that grant money is going to be as of January 1st? In order, is that part of the process in announcing our grants, period?
So grants are awarded in April. Granted, you guys are going to want to vote on all that probably in March, so probably February.
Okay,
We
so
won't have a dollar amount.
by February, we need to vote on how much money we're going to dedicate. So can that go on our February agenda?
Yes.
So we don't forget. However, if we're doing a retreat, then it's possible, then it sounds like it might make more sense that we do that in January. So that's done.
Yeah, there's no harm in doing it early.
Okay,
right?
so could we put that on the agenda for January? Is everybody good? So setting the dollar amount for the grant period that we're going to have in January. We decide that in January. So the grant period opens January 1st. We award in April. But we need to know how much money we're going to award in grants, and we make that decision, what our budget is for that in January. Should we decide before that, though? She's saying we don't.
Don't the artists need to know?
So the folks applying for the grants, they don't know how. No, that's okay. Yeah, so the folks applying for the grants don't know how much dollars you have to give out, I guess, unless they watch our meetings and see the budget, then someone could figure it out. But that doesn't, we don't cap you guys don't have many restrictions on the grants. You don't cap it and say you only can apply for 500 or 1,000, so people can ask for whatever. And then typically this group has never fully awarded the full amount anyway. Normally you guys kind of decide what amount to give. So I think it's helpful for the commission to know the dollar amount so you can make sure you're giving out as much as you can, really, but the artists don't know. I mean, they just know we have a grant open. Yeah, if someone wanted to, they could put $10,000. It's not saying they're going to get it, but there's no cap on the grants right now.
And we know that because last year, I think it was the Issaquah, the Issaquah orchestra or something asked for like $15,000, which was more, or something. It was something. One person asked for more than we're giving to everybody. So I do have a question about this. So thank you for that, for allowing me to identify what when we will talk about that budget. We have a matrix that we've been using to determine the worthwhile of the grant. And Sudeshna, Barbara, and I probably have the most visibility to that. Sudeshna, you've been on the grants, right? So the three of us have been on grants. Prior to that, we had one additional commissioner that was on our grants committee. One of the matrix is impact in the community. So that behooves an artist who is going to do something for the entire community, like the Drawing Herd or something like that, that has worked well. However, it does not positively impact a PTSA or a school that wants to ask for money. So in those cases, what you have is a small impact. So our schools in our community range from public schools. The lowest is around 76 kids, and the highest is probably Eastlake or Skyline. So we're talking multi-thousand. So if you have a school like Eastlake that's asking for money, they would get a much greater chance of being awarded if we were only looking at that one matrix. A small school or a small elementary school would have a much lower chance, and something that was aimed at the entire community, like the Drawing Herd or something like that, is going to have the highest. So what that causes is an inequity, and if we do want to consider either, if we do, as we've talked about in the past and what we voted on in the past to approve, is that if we wanted to focus on schools, we are currently in a situation where we've set them up to fail. Schools and PTSAs will not be awarded. So that's where I'm headed, is that we had talked and approved the idea, which we couldn't do because of the city's structure. We couldn't do the grants to schools, but I am wondering if we offer 2 grants at the same time. One we do as our regular program, which we've done very successfully year after year, and that we add in this idea, which we'd be copying from Issaquah, where we have a grants process that's focused specifically on schools of all sizes. And that would be something, I mean, I realize that we approved it. We said we would go forward with this. The city couldn't get the budget. They couldn't do the contracts and cutting checks in the amount of time, which is understandable. But I don't want to wait, because I don't want a school or a PTSA trying to apply for a grant and get denied when. Or get less than they ask. Right. So I'm wondering if we should have two simultaneous grant opportunities, one focused on schools at this time and the other focused on the greater community. And then I think we could look at, if these were both successful, then we could look at, other cultural groups then that are small cultural groups or something like that, that we continue to look at how we award grants. And if it got to be too big, perhaps we take that part out of the matrix.
I think this needs some more research. I love the idea of supporting schools separately, but I think we also need to look at other grants like capacity building grants, which are different than actual like performing or actually, activity grant. So there are a few different things that we can do and few different ways we can look at it. I think the grants committee can kind of meet and figure out what makes the most sense and come back with recommendations to the whole commission in January, maybe.
Okay, the grants window opens before our next meeting. So what is a capacity building grant? I'm unfamiliar with those.
Yeah, so the capacity building would be an artist who wants to create more space for their studio so they can have more participation in their classes, for example. So it's like, maybe putting new flooring for a ballet class, which is not directly supporting a program, but is supporting the studio, which is ultimately going to support more students.
Is it possible?
Is your light on?
Yes. Sorry, but I'm
Can't hear you.
for you. Is it possible, now you've made me lose my train of thought, to just like move forward for right now with the school grant, and then next year, if we want to alter it, or maybe like what Sadeshna is suggesting, change it? Because since we've already voted for it for this year, but it's not able to happen, just like with the Botanical Alchemist, we just moved it to next year, and then next year we can, I'm open to like whatever, but just thinking that, we've already approved it, and I know like my kid's school doesn't have any art at all, and there's 600 kids there. So
and that's an example of a school where we were not able to, we did not fund that grant to the ability to make what they wanted possible. So it just didn't come to fruition. I
love that idea, Ashley. I'm all for it. But I just feel like the grant making process still needs to be thought out a little bit more. So maybe we can go ahead with this and, look at the grant process for the year after.
And maybe we like completely edit our entire grant process next year so we can, assign more money and then have sections. So, you pick which area you're applying, and maybe it's.
Yeah, exactly. That's
you know what
exactly
I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be
Yeah, I
this
don't.
is it and this is how we
Right.
move forward. Like maybe we move forward now with the school grants and then our typical grants, and then next year the grants committee like really do a lot of research and deep dive into different types of grants and how do we want the grant process to look moving forward.
Yeah, and I think looking at that, I think having a matrix is essential for transparency, but I think that in this case, we're seeing where one of our matrix is actually hurting parts of our community.
Yeah, I think the question is that we don't have a matrix that matches what it is that we want to do.
Yeah.
And we voted on wanting to move forward with grants for schools. So
In September.
in September. So I think the question is it possible, and I guess I'm looking at Emily, is it possible to create another matrix that's specific to schools and run that in parallel with the other grant process? Or is that are we just asking for trouble?
No, yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking through. If it was one grant program but two different rubrics, I think we might get called on, like, or might be being partial, or like, I'm just trying to think through the cleanest way to do this that's fair for everyone who applies. And, I don't know if our current grant program, say there's $6,000 in that, and then for schools we end up putting $15,000. I just am trying to think through, all the playing devil's advocate in my head here of what makes sense. So I think I understand what you guys want to do. I think writing down like a quick proposal of.
I think, couldn't we just use what I already sent you in September?
Yeah, so you're thinking a whole separate grant program.
Yeah.
So I guess the group needs to decide 2 separate grant programs or one and alter the matrix. I
don't think we want to alter the matrix at this time. I mean, I'm willing, we can ask, but that's a much bigger conversation of like what the intent is, what the role of the matrix is. Okay. And I think if I propose that we would have 2 simultaneous, and then we don't determine that dollar until January's meeting, and they're just different.
Yeah, and then we would just come up with, are these public and private schools, do they have to fall within which zip codes? Can this be a performing arts school versus we just have to make sure that that's all clear for people who apply, because I just don't want
I think it's just copying almost word for word what the Issaquah does. I mean, that's already, it was all schools. And I mean, I understand we're a different city, but if we go back and look at that's already been flushed by their legal team and their contracts team. So we, obviously you have to be comfortable, and our city has to be comfortable, but we're not creating a new wheel here. We have a structure, and that we can tweak it as needed. I can work with you offline to do that, but if we could get, I think Sudeshna had one more comment.
Yes, and sorry, my dog is trying to chew on a very noisy toy. I was just saying that we can have 2 grant cycles. So if you're looking at school grants, it might make more sense to have the school grant open up in, say, April or May, and then you apply to the next school year in September. So that's also another possibility. Then we don't have to decide on anything right now, but we can get some more time.
That won't work timeline-wise because of how schools
PTSAs and school leaderships change at the end of their fiscal year is June 30th. So
we could possibly start it in August, but I don't know that gives then
we're back to where we were in September.
But cannot they figure out what they want to do for next year? I'm sure they're planning on the same thing as.
No, it doesn't work that way
because the calendar year, and then we have that budget problem that we just eliminated again.
So what happens, Sudeshna, is that if a PTSA or a school administrator or teacher applied for the grant in April and got approved in June, they couldn't use that money until September. Right. And what that means is those teachers, those administrators may very well be gone in September. That PTSA likely changes because of commitments with you're only allowed to be in a PTSA position for 2 years, which means you're either telling your next crew what they have to do or it'll fail and not be used at all. And then what happens is that nothing gets done in schools for spending money. No projects get done before September 15th. Because they don't even know how many kids, they don't have a set number of kids turned into the district until October 8th. So then you have nothing that can be spent until the end of October or November. And then that bill is too late to be funded. And we're back to where we were this year, where we couldn't get the money spent. We couldn't get the schools to spend the money and get the checks reimbursed by our city in time. Right. So we're back to the same window, but we have two problems now. Now we have the turnover in administration, whether it's district or PTSA, and now you have the city being able to write the checks. Whereas if we do it simultaneously, starting in January, we'll have eliminated both of those things. And we could also close the window faster, potentially, but we could talk about those windows. I'm sorry, what I mean by that is, I think Emily knew what I meant because she was nodding her head, but close the window of when we approve the grants. So our regular grant process is going to start, and the window opens in January for applications, and then we make the decisions and the announcements in April. Is that right? And that we could make that shorter.
So yeah, that just gives them 2 months to complete everything.
So is it possible, I don't know what the city's required to do. Is there any reason that we have to have the window open for this long? Is Janie still here?
No, there's no reason. I think last year, I remember we extended it because we didn't get any applicants. So we chose to extend it. If this group would like, we can choose to shorten it again.
I think the windows, people tend to, when you have a large window, these people either apply in the first week or in the last week. Barely anybody does in between. It's that way in all of our lives. So I would like to see it shortened. If we're going to say apply, if we open up the window January 2nd or whatever, whenever the city opens back up, I would say give it through the end of January. And then we vote in February and we give the money or we don't give them, whatever. We have time, give us 2 to 3 weeks to meet, and then bring it to the next meeting in March. And then it's done.
Make a motion.
Shorter even than, not March. it could be the beginning of March.
I think end of February would be.
Yeah, because it would be end of February, and then you could contact people by beginning of March.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me because April is just too late.
So could we change that timeline?
Yeah, just make a motion. And
Can anybody want to make a motion? I'm asking for somebody to make a motion to shorten the window of our grants process so we can accept grants, the grants application window to be 3 weeks.
Sure, I'll make a motion.
Okay, thanks, Ashley.
Too close.
Second?
I second the motion.
Shawnee seconds.
so January 1st to, I'm going to help here. So January
Ashley, and
1st
then
through the 19th.
Shawnee.
You guys have to say that.
Well, I was going to have Ashley just restate the motion.
Oh. Somebody make a motion to, no, I cannot make a motion. Shorten the grants window period so we open in the beginning of January and we end in 3 weeks. So the application window is a 3-week process beginning the beginning of April, or January.
So it's going to close January 22nd,
Perfect.
night of our next meeting. So, yeah, say that.
Say that, Ashley.
Okay, let's see if I can remember what you guys said. I would like to make a motion that we shorten the grants period of enrollment starting in January, closing January 22nd, and 3 weeks later.
It doesn't, we don't need the rest. Okay, does anybody want to second that?
I second the motion.
Okay, so let's vote. If you're in favor, say aye. Aye. Any noes?
Aye, sorry.
Are you an, I'm sorry, Sudeshna, are you an aye or
Oh,
no?
I said aye. Yeah,
You're an
I
aye.
was just
Okay, any
late
noes?
to-
Any abstentions? Okay, it's unanimous. Is somebody like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we move forward with a separate grant process completely for schools.
Perfect,
I
second.
second that.
Okay, we have Ann second, and that was super thorough, Annalise. We got all the i's dotted and t's crossed for you there. Okay, so do anybody, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Great, thank you.
Okay, now I'm confused. So did we shorten the window so that it worked out for schools and we were just going to do one? Or we shortened the window for what we're currently doing and then we're also opening?
Yes.
So what is, and we're copying the same timeline for the school grant program? Okay, so two separate opening, closing, same days.
So two separate grants processes. To recap, we are now going to offer two separate grant processes. Each will open at the beginning of January when the city reopens, give or take a day or two, like, so people can get their lives together. It'll be a 3-week process. The window will close January 22nd, which is the date of our next meeting. And the grants committee will meet. We will be reviewing 2 series of applications. One will be a general application, which we will use the current matrix. The second application will be focused on schools at this time. And we need to look at a matrix.
Yeah.
And then the
Matrix,
grants committee will,
website and advertising, just so schools hear about this if it's going to open in like a month.
okay. Do you want, so the biggest places to advertise there would be Peachtree,
A peach jar.
Peach Jar. I don't know what Peachtree is, but
Sounds nice.
a tree that grows peaches.
So Peach Jar has gotten a little more strict with their free advertising. So I don't know if you guys want a motion to do a budget. If we do have, do you guys still want me to do Peach Jar advertising if it's not free?
Yeah, it's not going to be more than $50, right? Peach Jar, I don't think they charge for cities.
They don't, but they've gotten, like, they've kicked stuff back to us numerous times where they're like, it's not directly benefiting children, I think is what they say. Or
I think a grant to a school.
I want to say it's 25. Do you remember how much per school? $25
Okay,
per
I will
school?
make, to school? To each school?
They charge per school that we advertise it to if they don't approve it as like a free one that they think can be free.
Okay,
basically.
if they think that it cannot be free, contact me.
Okay.
Any other new business? Oh, so let's do this. Let's set a budget to support this, just in case. But if, I don't know. So we'll just say if it's $25 per school, I don't know. Let's say $2,000. I mean, we won't use it. And Annalise, that way, if you have or whomever, but contact me because I can talk to somebody at the district to help with wording or something to help convince.
I have a question
Yeah.
about Peach Jar. Doesn't that go to students' families?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about grants, we should be targeting schools and PTSAs, right?
Right. So every parent that is a PTSA member will receive that. And that's going to their membership. And the membership is what creates a vote on the PTSA.
Yeah, but won't Peach Jar go to every single
Every student.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Every parent should be a member of a PTSA.
Email every principal.
Every school
and every
will also get
PTSA
it. Yeah.
President.
Every school, every administration, we can do it separately. This doesn't need to be they're having it. Sudeshna, for the record, Emily and Annalise weren't listening to that part of the
just talking about the
conversation.
grant process.
They're like, I'm kidding.
Like technically they have to put
Okay,
the logo
so
on
what I'd like
stuff
to do is, I am totally comfortable in figuring out how to send that messaging to all the right people. So I can help with that, but I don't want to do it all. But that like Emily's like,
Someone has to make it a little bit of their like passion project because
Okay,
we need to come up with a
just
separate
talk, it
matrix.
just, yeah, just,
Like,
yes.
Is the same subcommittee going to be reviewing the application?
Yes.
Okay, that makes it easier.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at Barbara's face. It's like, yes, I'll make Barbara sit with me and Sudeshna, right?
Okay.
That's our current, is there anybody, who else is on our grants commission? Say
And
aye.
this goes to all schools, correct?
It'll go all the
school
schools and all
districts.
PTSAs,
All school districts, yeah.
as long as they are within the city of Sammamish.
Okay, so, I'm just wondering about like the Montessori schools and.
That's fine.
some of those.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
okay.
every school. It's not just public. We're just modeling after Issaquah.
Can individual teachers apply? We're open.
Yeah.
To that? Okay. I'm just thinking all the stuff I need to put on the website. I need to build you guys a little website. Okay.
I mean, any teacher that applies has to get their principal's, their administrator's signature.
Okay. Do you want a cap on it?
I don't know. So this is, I thought we were going to
You
talk
just wanna
about the
look-
money in January
Okay. We can.
for all grants.
Yeah, but if you want me to start advertising it, do you want me to say like each classroom or PTA can only apply for up to like $500? Because I feel like we should start advertising it before our January meeting. I mean, or you can always let people ask
Hi,
for the moon and
please.
then we say it's this.
Sorry.
So can you pull up the one that Issaquah did?
And then I just looked, it's $25 per school if they don't allow us to do it as a free advertisement. They've just gotten more strict over the past couple of years where they like send us back. Sometimes they just want us to add something for it or add that it's for kids. Sometimes they say, no, you have to pay for it. But usually it's free. It's just they've gotten a lot more strict.
Say money for kids' art.
Right now, Emily is looking for the stuff from the Issaquah grant that we're looking just to copy.
I'm also thinking that now it'll be two grant cycles, two grant separate proposals, programs, which means that, and we have stricter timelines. So it may make sense to have a few more people added to the committee or have a separate committee because, if travel plans are there or if people are not there, then the process should not stop, right?
On the record, it's not a hard process. Like when we did it, it wasn't hard. It was very little time because we didn't. In the past, it's been harder because there's been fighting. Other than Barbara like crying, it wasn't hard. You just do it on your own.
Yeah.
So the way the process is that Emily sends us the grants. We look at a matrix. We take on our own time. We have to send the matrix back. So I think last year we sent it back to Janie, right? Each of us did our own scoring and sent it to her for public records. But then what we did is we met and we just said like, who do you have in the 7.5 and above or whatever, which would be considered. And as long as I think we were in agreement on most of those and we only had 2 to talk about. Because if they didn't come into that 7.5 if one of us, like if Barbara had everything below 7.5, then she's basically saying, I don't want to give anybody any money. So then Sudesh and I would just be trying to pull her up I don't know if I'm making any sense. It's like a Venn diagram. You're going in and you're seeing where we cross over to have those center points. Is that a good thing?
Okay, so Megan did a bunch of homework on this. So what Issaquah does is a maximum request of $2,500. Megan, you already kind of re-edited it and said 500, which I think is realistic. It also says on here only one application per school will be considered, so please coordinate with your building administrator. So just confirm that you guys are cool with that. And then only Lake Washington School District, Issaquah School District schools within Sammamish city limits. It does say, or with the majority of Sammamish residents as students may apply. And other than that, the criteria was public benefit, artistic value, and feasibility. And all the grants are reimbursable, so folks would need to purchase the items, submit receipts, and then we would get them a check.
I think we could increase that number, but I do think it's important to say just one per school, because what you have is, it's an equity issue, because the schools that have more resources with more parents that can help write grants will be able to do that. Or parents, that can come in and run an art, versus a school that, like, there are certain schools that don't allow parent volunteers to come in, so they're not as likely to apply. Or if they're a lower income school, I don't know if there's many of those in this city, but I would like to see it increase to $1,000, but they had a budget of like $100,000 in Issaquah, so that's why their number was so high. So we're not at the same level. We don't have the same funds, but that's because they have like a tax percentage or something that goes. All right, so to make a motion, does anybody well, if we're
You guys
gonna
want to vote on the, yeah,
if we're gonna put any amount, because that we didn't even approve the 500. Well, maybe we did. I don't remember. But do we want to anybody want to make a motion that we're going to say that there's a cap of, I was saying 1,000 per school, but only one?
no.
Oh, no, it's a
Private
lot.
schools
Thing
and
is, I don't know if this should be more than the other grant process.
there's no
do you-
cap on the other grant.
We haven't
It's
created a cap.
open-ended.
I mean, of our budget, are we going to give like 10,000 to any artist and then the schools are going to get like 20? I don't know. That's what I guess I'm trying to figure out.
I think we don't know that until people apply for the grant and we make our decisions. I think I think it's a good question, but I think it's a cart before the horse thing. We don't know
But I
what
guess
our
what I'm
total
thinking-
amount, we're going to decide in January what our total budget is for the two
Okay.
categories.
So we're going to say we have $10,000 and the max you can ask for is $1,000 each. And if 15 schools apply, then five
Then
people don't
five.
get it. Okay.
Or,
that's fine.
or we give them, less.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
just
all we're
didn't
doing
know
right
how
now-
we wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All we're doing, I think it makes sense that what you're saying, like, we don't want to offer more to the schools than we do in our
Yeah.
regular grant. And I think that's a good discussion for January.
Okay, then I will make a motion that we increase the grant amount to $1,000 per school with only one request coming per school.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Thanks, Barbara. Thanks, Ashley. All in favor, say aye.
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 Sorry.
We all looked at you. That's okay. Any noes? Any abstentions? Okay, it's passed unanimously. Any other new business?
I have a question for new business.
Yeah.
There's a space for rent in Sammamish that I was wondering, could we rent it for like a year and use it as like an open art space that like anybody can use for like kind of like a studio?
Yes.
I know we want to do it. I'm saying, can we do it?
That's a really great question. I think it would come down to how much the yearly rent would be, and if it's over a certain threshold,
And
go to
insurance.
council, and like who's running it, right? Who's going to open and close the doors, those kinds of things. Because the Arts Commission couldn't rent it; it would be the city renting it. So I don't know. I've never asked that question. It'd be a question for the city manager's office, and just whatever that dollar. There's certain thresholds that require different approval levels. So
Why don't you write Scott?
yeah. Sure can.
McCall. It's probably S. McCall. Did you text me it? But he doesn't, he won't, he'll send it to that. Yeah, so, but that's a good, I mean, yeah.
How long would it take? Like, that's not something we could, I know there's going to be contracts and insurance and things like that, but that's not something we could like use our extra budget for. Could we like assign it and say it's approved and that we're like working on it, just like the DEI thing? I don't understand why we can't do
Like the
that
utility
anymore.
boxes?
I mean, just like anything, we used to be able to like at least, I don't know why I'm looking at you, sorry. We used to be able to like, okay, we're going to do this. We've approved it this year. It's rolling over because it's already allotted to this thing.
No, we didn't roll it over.
But that's unrealistic for the council to think that art's going to get approved
right.
in a year.
Right,
Things take time.
right.
They suck.
But that's, I know, but we didn't actually ever do that. No. We had 1 year where Chris got an approval for us to be able to roll our funds over 1 year, but we've never been able to do, and you were commissioner that year, or chair that year, but we've never been able to earmark that earmark money.
We totally did.
Well,
Maybe COVID times, because I know because nothing was happening, I think maybe the budget was allowed to.
Been here?
What was
no,
that?
you were here 2 years before COVID. And
I know that
I-
had any extra money, it all rolled over. Right, Sadeshna? Didn't all our extra money get rolled over
Once.
previously?
I'm pretty sure it did.
More than once, I feel like. Because I feel
Yeah,
like
I feel like
when
it did
I
get rolled
came
over.
and started, I thought it was insane.
yeah,
That we had all this
well,
money sitting there that was just getting rolled over and getting rolled over.
I think
Well,
I don't think it
what we
was. I
did-
think it was the capital funds. This
Yeah.
was a big issue where I don't think it is what you guys, because I think it's
So-
what we thought at the beginning of the end of last year too. Because it had to do with capital funds. There's a 2-year cycle, whereas the regular funds are a 1-year cycle.
What are you going to say, Sadeshna?
I was just going to say, I think what we did was all the extra money that we had, we put it in the capital fund. We didn't actually roll it over. So the capital fund got bigger and then it got taken away. But I think that's what we did with the extra money.
Yeah, the budgets are biannual, so you may feel like if it was, let's say, 2020 and 2021, that capital rolled, and then as soon as you hit the end of 2021, it's not going to roll to the next 2-year cycle. So it could have rolled, the capital could have, like for this one, the permanent public art fund, so the money for this art out here, that's going to roll, right? Because we haven't spent it and it's okay, it's not going anywhere, it's under contract. That money's there. The operating fund of the original 58,000, that's not going to roll, but you're going to start out with a fresh new piggy bank.
So I specifically remember Chris talking about this at one of the meetings, and there was a lot of confusion in the background. And do you remember that? And it was an insistence by one person saying, we always get to do this, and it wasn't you. And he kept saying, we don't. But it was something about, I think what it came down to was the capital funds, and there was this rolling, and he said, that 1 year was an anomaly. Mm-hmm. And then there was this thing about the use of this word earmark, and it just kept being used over and over again as if, and then last year it came into this thing where can't we just say that we're going to write the check and then pay it in January, but have it come from the last year's money? And that's a robbing Peter to pay, but yet, no. I mean, I do remember, but
I remember we were all very confused and very shocked that was what was going to happen. There was the assumption that the money was going to be there.
Yeah.
And lo and behold.
I would just like to clarify, I don't think we should just keep money if we're not going to use it, but I feel like if we could use it, it would be fabulous if we could Because now we're sitting ducks. We can't do anything.
Well, it's,
This is why if we sit down in February and have the retreat, really put our heads together, figure out a plan, then we'll know. And then we come to the meetings every month with I have this much dedicated to my set of projects. I've spent this much. I have this much to go. Right? We can start to see the forecast and see where we're headed versus getting to the end of the year and trying to scramble.
well, and I think there's a piece too that the end of the year is September, right? Like I don't think any of us understood that. And when I had that meeting with Emily and Scott, like were you at that meeting? No, it was Angeli and I with Scott, and I was blown away. I was like, I could not believe that September was basically, we were being told we couldn't do anything new. And it was trying to backtrack what this looked like in our calendar of how long it takes for us to get approval or whatever we need to do. Like we're still fleshing ourselves out in March. And then all of a sudden, then we have there's no August meeting and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, like we were using the botanical thing, which is like, oh, we think it's going to cost this much money. Then it comes back and then we have to vote to approve it. Then you go back out and do it. And then it's like 2 months later and then the window's gone. Like the year's over for being able to cut a check. Now you can cut checks if we make the approval early enough, but we can't leave projects being initiated until late in the year.
Yeah, so service has to be rendered. So like for the example of the library, like we haven't cut that check yet, but we know the money's going to come out. So
Yeah.
as soon as that is done, like the Monday after that, the check will be in the mail.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can cut checks until, finance isn't fond of it, but until the end of December.
Yeah.
As long as the materials are in hand or the service has happened, we can get people paid. We're not going to say
Right.
there was a performer coming to an event in next July, we're not going to pay them now. And then if they never show up, we can't, do anything about it. So, does that make sense? And we can have a really in-depth budget conversation at one of the first meetings. We can have I can have finance come in and really in detail explain how it works. I'm just putting it out there.
I think we had
Grasp.
3 meetings of intense budget. And
Yeah.
I think the tendency when the conversation gets uncomfortable that we want to wait, right? No offense, Sudeshna, but she was like, well, let's have the grants committee meet and then we come back and talk about it. That's an example of trying to be prudent and is a good thing. We all want that. But it also gets in our way because we can't move forward. We're stalling out, which brings me to that original question I had before the meeting started. Okay, so I really don't want to look at the budget tracking because I don't think anything's happened. Anybody really want to go into the budget? Okay, it should be visible if there's anybody who wants to dial in and see it, right? Public records, they can get a copy. Committee report, I have nothing. We've already done strategic art plan. And does anybody else working on something? No. Okay. Well, everything. So any public comment? Anybody else waiting in the wings? I'd like to call this meeting to adjournment at 8:20. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Sudeshna. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus there. I was just trying to give an example of, I don't know, did you feel like I was just throwing you under the bus?
All I have to say is this.
That's the dogs. Okay. Oh, you know what? Are we still on? Can she still hear me? Are we on live? Is it over? Right now? Okay. Good night, Sudeshna.
Good night.